Hello everyone, in this video I'm going to show you how you can make Daijin from Suzume in Blender. I'm going to split this video into multiple parts so that it will be easier for you to follow along and get a similar result in the end. So without further ado, let's begin with the modeling. First, make sure that you're using Eevee render engine. Then I also decided to add this image as a reference. You can easily find it on the internet if you just search Daijin. For the modeling part, it's kind of super important to have a good reference image, so make sure to add that before starting. Now you can delete the default cube and press Shift A to search to add a sphere instead. Move it up and scale it down on the Z-axis by pressing S+Z until it roughly resembles the reference. Then you can go into edit mode, turn on X-ray view from up here and delete half of the vertices just like this. Then go to the modifiers tab and add a mirror modifier. This will make the whole modeling process a lot easier as the mesh will be symmetric. Also, make sure to turn on clipping. As you can see here in edit mode, when clipping is enabled, it prevents vertices from passing through the center line and overlap. Now we can switch to side view by pressing 3 on the number pad and further adjust the scale of the sphere. After that, select the proportional editing tool and you can start adjusting the mesh to match Daijin's head shape. If you can find a side view reference image, that can really help you speed things up. I didn't use one here, but it's definitely a lot better to have one. So basically all that I'm doing is making small adjustments to the mesh until I get the right shape. There is not that much to explain here, so you can just follow what I do on screen. We're going to create the entire body using this mesh, so you can delete these bottom vertices as we no longer need them. Then, before moving on, you can finish adjusting the head and nose shape. This whole modeling process does take some time, as you will see throughout this video. I'm going to make a lot of small changes to the model, but even so, I'm not going to speed things up too much so that you can still keep up with everything I do. I'll try to keep the pace sort of balanced. So now you can select the lower vertices with Alt+click and start creating the rest of the body. Press E to extrude and add more vertices, then adjust them using the reference. After that, you can repeat the same process to create the entire shape. Select these vertices in the back and move them further towards the outside. Then extrude again a couple of times. Now, to make the mesh look a bit better, you can add a subdivision modifier to it. As you can see, we're kind of starting to get something that's pretty close to the desired shape. So we can now move on to the legs. First, select these three faces over here, go to Loop Tools and turn them into a circle. This is an add-on that comes with Blender but is not active by default, so if you don't see it, you probably need to enable it in your preferences. Then press E to extrude and move the faces in the right place. You can add two loop cuts by pressing R and scrolling down. Then, just like for the head modeling part, I'm going to further adjust the shape of the legs. I spent quite a lot of time figuring out what worked best, making a lot of small changes until I got a result I was happy with. To make the paws, you can add another loop cut here, and then scale down the vertices above. For the back legs, select these four faces and delete them. And also delete this face as well. Then press E again and extrude them on the Y-axis. Then to fill in this hole, hit F to add the face. After that, you can just refine the position of the vertices. Also, to make sure that all the lower vertices are perfectly aligned or flat, you can press S plus Z plus 0 and then add a face. You can also shade your model smooth, then again adjust the geometry. Now we can finally move on to the eyes. So first, using our reference here, we're going to select all the faces that roughly cover the area where the eyes will be. and after that delete them. Then with the X-ray mode enabled, you can manually drag the vertices to align with the reference. Then press E to extend your existing vertices and S to scale. Adjust them so they match the reference as well. You can also exit front view to make sure that the eyes look alright from every angle. Then back to the object mode, press Shift A to search and add a sphere. Position it right where the eyes are and mirror it as well. Then make sure that the gap in the main mesh is covered up as much as possible. Don't worry if there's still some space left between the spheres and the model, as we'll fix that in a minute using the sculpting brushes. Like I said earlier, we can now enter sculpt mode and further refine the shape of the eyes with the grab brush. Then, to make sure that there won't be any space left accidentally between the two objects, we can enter edit mode and extrude the vertices along the y-axis to move them further away. After that, you can finish adjusting the shape of the eyes in sculpt mode. Back to the main model, we can now add the ears. So to do that, first select all these vertices on the side. And in front view, press E to extrude them a couple of times. Then adjust their position by rotating them so that the ears don't appear straight and flat, but rather slightly bent back. This won't make that much of a difference when looking at your model in front view, but when you'll switch to another angle, you'll see that it looks a lot better. To finish the ears, you can press I to insert these inner faces and extrude them. Now the Daijin model is almost complete. We just have to add a few finishing touches, such as the fluffy fur around the head. To do that, select these 4 faces below the ear, extrude them and move them up a bit. You can also add a loop cut and scale it up. Then, to give it a better shape as well, select these faces and turn them into a circle. After that, you can just repeat the same process 2 more times. To add the fluff around the ears, you can extrude these 2 faces as well. And with that, Daijin's main body is done. This is what it looks like so far. I think it resembles the reference pretty well. So we can now move on to the tail. This will be super easy to make. You can just start by adding a curve, then enter edit mode and adjust its position, just like this. To add more points to the curve, you can press E, just like for a regular mesh. Then, after getting the shape right, you can go to the curve settings and under geometry, increase the depth of the curve. Next, you can go back and finish adjusting the tail. Make sure to also check that the tail looks right from all the other angles. Lastly, you can scale up the end of the tail, just like this. Then exit edit mode, go up here to object and choose convert to mesh. This will enable us to further adjust the tail and add more details to it. Now, to finish the end of the tail, you can extrude these vertices twice and scale them down. Finally, add a face to completely seal this part. Then select these 4 faces and extrude them. After that, you can turn the faces into a circle as well. And that's it for the tail. You can also add a subdivision modifier to it if you want. Then to make the nose, select the body and go into edit mode. Select this face, press Shift D to duplicate it and move it forward a bit. To separate it from the mesh, press P, then go back to object mode and select it. Now back in edit mode, you can adjust its position according to the reference. But as you can see, right now the nose is only a plane, so we'll need to extrude all the vertices just like this. Here I realized that even though I placed the nose correctly in front view, from the side it looked completely off, so I decided to go back to the main mesh and readjust it. This can easily happen when modeling, but it's not really a problem as it can be easily fixed, so don't worry if the same happens to you. Then, to completely finish the modeling part, you can use the sculpting brushes to fix any imperfections on your mesh. I also decided to apply the subdivision modifier to the mesh and add another one, but this is entirely optional. Lastly, there is still one more thing we need to add that I nearly forgot, and that is the hair or sort of little whiskers in front of the ears. I don't really know how to call them, but yeah, we need to add those. So again, you can start by adding a curve and adjust it in edit mode. Delete one of the points and position the remaining one in front of the ear. Then extrude it just like this. And duplicate it with Shift D. After that, just like you did for the tail, you can adjust the depth in the curve settings. Then add a mirror modifier and select the main body as the mirror object. And that's it, we've finally finished the modeling. This is what Daijin looks like right now. I know it took quite some time, but from here on things are going to go a little bit faster, as the modeling part is usually the one to take the longest. So we can now start working on the shading. First, enter the shading tab and switch to render view from up here. You can press Ctrl Alt plus numpad 0 to align the camera to your current view, and you can move it with G as well. However, if you want to get more control over your camera, you can press the N key. This will bring up a whole new menu here on the right with a bunch of different options, but what you need to look for is the View tab and enable camera to view. Once enabled, any navigation in the 3D viewport like rotating and zooming will also move the active camera. Then you can also adjust the light so that you'll be able to visualize the shading better. Select the body and add a new material. Delete the principled BSDF. Then press Shift A to search and add a diffuse BSDF instead. After that, add the shader to RGB and the color ramp. Connect all the nodes and set the color ramp to constant. This will remove any gradient between the colors, giving your model that 2D look. Then, before actually choosing your colors, go in the render settings and make sure to set the color management to standard. This works way better for 2D style renders, and it will allow us to accurately pick the same colors in the reference. To do that, we're gonna have to add a plane and create a new material for it using the reference as an image texture. Now, if you go back to the shader, you'll easily be able to pick the exact colors in the reference. You can hold Shift to select both the tail and the body, and press Ctrl L to link materials between them. After that, back to the main body, press this plus button to add a second material and click New. This will be the material for the ears, so you can simply replicate the same shading process I showed you earlier. Then in edit mode, select all the faces making up the inside of the ear and assign them to the second material. When you're done, you can use the same material for the nose as well. For the whiskers, just duplicate the first material and change its colors. Now for the next part, we're going to make the shader for the eyes, and the reason why I decided to turn this into a separate part is because unlike the other shaders, this time you'll need to add multiple image textures and paint all the details manually using Blender's texture painting mode. So with the eye selected, add a new material and add an image texture. Then click New and increase the number of pixels. After that, for the main color of the eyes, we're going to make a simple tone shader again, which in this case will be yellow. Then add a mix node and change it to color. Plug the color ramp in the A output and the image texture in the factor. Now the B output here is going to be the color we're going to paint with, so you can set it to green. But before moving on to texture painting, we can't actually paint on the object without having a UV map of its surface first. So to do that, go into edit mode, select everything and unwrap the mesh by pressing U. Now, if you see this error down here as well, what Blender is obviously trying to tell you is that it can't unwrap the mesh without any edge seams. These are used to define where a 3D model's surface will be cut or split when creating the UV map, which will allow us to paint directly on the mesh. I usually forget to do this, but to add an edge seam, all you have to do is select an edge like this, then go up here to edges and choose mark seam. And now if you unwrap the mesh, everything should be fine. Go to texture painting mode, and here on the left you can see your object surface. If your viewport looks different, make sure that you're in render view. Then from up here you can adjust the brush settings and start painting on the mesh. Moving on to the next color, which is brown, you can go back to the shading tab, duplicate the mix shader, and add another image texture. Make sure that you don't accidentally connect the alpha value to the mix shader instead of the color. And then you can go back to texture painting. If you want to erase something, you can just set the brush color to black and paint over. Then for our fourth and final color, repeat the same process again. But this time, apply the mirror modifier to the mesh, go into edit mode, select one of the eyes and press P to separate it. We'll do this so that we can have two different materials and two different image textures for the white reflection on each eye, so that this way it won't look like it's mirrored and we'll just manually paint it twice. After that, to finish the shading, there's only one final detail left to add, and that is the brown spot around Daijin's right eye. So to add that, first apply the mirror modifier, then add a second material and make this one brown. In edit mode, select all the faces around the eye that will be the brown spot and assign them. Then, if you've also applied the subdivision modifier in the beginning, you might want to refine the shape of the spot a bit, as its initial form has been affected by the modifier. For the shadows, there are two ways you can make them look sharp, and the first one would be to lower the number of steps in the render settings under shadows. Or you can just go to the light settings and set the radius, filter and resolution limit to 0. But keep in mind that you'll have to do this for every light in the scene in order to get those nice sharp shadows. Now for me, probably one of the most challenging parts of this video was the lighting. And to be honest, I spent quite a lot of time figuring out how to recreate that specific look from the movie. In this scene, Daijin is clearly being lit from behind. But however, the same can't be achieved in 3D just by using one light, so I eventually came up with a pretty good setup consisting of multiple lights set to area, as you can see here. I placed two of the lights above the model and slightly behind it, then I duplicated them and placed them on the sides. Now, the liner part is actually super simple to do. Just press Shift A to search, go to Grease Pencil and add a scene line art. Then you can go to the line art modifier and lower the line thickness. And also enable material borders under edge types. But however, if there are any objects in your scene that you don't necessarily want to have an outline, you can move everything else into a separate collection using M and assign the line art modifier to that collection. Then to add the mouth, you can just draw its shape with the knife tool in edit mode. And after that, mark it sharp. This will tell Blender to add a line exactly over the edges you selected. Last but not least, we've made it to the final part of this video, which is the glow or bloom effect. To add this, we'll need to use the compositor. So first make sure that in render view, the compositor is set to always. Now go to compositing and add another window here to preview our effect. Then make sure to enable use nodes. And add a glare node. Set it to bloom, and before adjusting its settings, make sure the compositor is set to always here as well. You can then play around with the bloom value until you get something that looks nice. And with that done, here's the final look. Overall, I'm really happy with how this model turned out, and I really hope you guys were able to follow along and learn something new. If you have any questions or you got stuck at some point, let me know in the comments. Also, feel free to give me any feedback. I'm really curious to hear what you guys thought of this video. So with that being said, thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you next time.